Welcome everybody out to sea. Here we are, day 5. No alcohol for me. Got a little loop going here. Love the tone on this Gretsch, man. The Dan Electro, it's got that spank, it's got the single coil lipstick pickups, and this has got those nice humbuckers, get that nice warmth. But alright, here we are, day 5, keeping it moving. I made it past the dreaded day 4, which I've relapsed on so many times in the past. And I'm holding strong with keeping my Suboxone dose low so that I'll be ready to detox coming up in about a little more than a month here. I'm proud of myself. I'm taking it just twice a day as I should. I'm down to 4 milligrams. And just several months ago, you know, I was upwards of 2 strips a day. I was taking upwards of 16 milligrams a day. So I've come a long ways. And you know, just 5 days without alcohol, you know, there's marked improvement. You know, I feel better, my complexion is better, I can tell I'm sharper. Alcohol is just a nasty drug, man. And I'm happy to be leaving it behind. But let's talk about Ibogaine a little bit today. You know, at one point, I was an enthusiastic Ibogaine supporter. I did it myself in 2008, and that ended a 3-year Suboxone run. So when I went and did my Ibogaine, the effect it had on me made me enthusiastic about it. You know, it removed my withdrawals and my cravings, and it seemingly changed my relationship to opiates. When I left that quasi clinic in Mexico 7 days after taking Ibogaine, I was exhausted, I was malnourished, I was weak, I was still hallucinating, but the heroin addiction was gone. It was gone. And I was so excited that I had found something so promising. You know, it did something that was not supposed to exist as far as Western medicine was concerned, you know. And I'd done the treatments, I'd done the AA, and I just lost my hope in that. I had lost hope, and for me, Ibogaine was hope. And I was already a psychedelic enthusiast. You know, I'd already gone into the deep end of the acid world when I was a kid and found purpose in that. And I found a community and belonging, and you know, it wasn't just the drugs, it was the culture and the people and everything that came with it. You know, with drugs comes an entire counterculture. It has its own style, its own music, you know, it's a unique, dangerous place, you know. It's attractive, especially when you're kind of a lost kid, you know. So I discovered Ibogaine doing research online. I think I first read about it in Vice magazine. Gideon Yago did an article about the Ibogaine clinics down in Tijuana. This was years ago, you know. I want to say this was early 2000s I read about it, and I kind of forgot about it. And oddly enough, I had scheduled time off of work to detox from Suboxone. I had been tapering, I'd been on it for 3 years. I had a physician named Dr. Deal that I was getting it from. He took good care of me. You know, speaking of, I find it funny, the last few times I got my Suboxone script, they gave it to me in a Ziploc plastic bag, you know, and just straight dope. You know, it is what it is. Why hide it? I've never had any other medications given to me in a Ziploc bag. But anyways, you know, YouTube was very helpful for me in the beginning when I was researching Ibogaine. You know, I found a bunch of YouTube videos that Rocky Caravelli did, you know, one of the OG Ibogaine providers and Ibogaine users as well. I hope he's doing all right. You know, like so many Ibogaine providers, I heard he had relapsed again and, you know, was struggling badly. But I never met the man in person, so that's just what I heard. But it happens. So I discovered a clinic in Playas de Tijuana, and I started talking to a woman down there. And so again, I had scheduled time off of work to do just a cold turkey at-home detox, and I was terrified. And I was not very hopeful because I had attempted to do it before, and the withdrawals just drag on so long with the Suboxone. So I stumbled upon Ibogaine doing research online and remembered the article I read in Vice, like, oh yeah, what is up with this? And it had been years since I looked into it, but I get online and come to find there's a lot more information. You know, there's all these testimonials on YouTube, and they seem pretty damn sincere. People talking about being strung out to the bone and going down to Mexico and taking Ibogaine and having an extremely profound visionary experience and coming out of it a changed person. Something about it made sense to me. You know, I always wanted to believe that there was a healing capacity to these psychedelics. And here is this drug, Ibogaine hydrochloride, you know, raining from West Africa, from Tabernanthe Iboga. Turns out there's a rich history in West Africa of a tradition of people known as Bwiti that use Iboga for their rite of passage ceremonies. They have instruments and music that are very particular to the ceremony. The entire village is involved. You're painted in red and white clay. You're given a new symbolic mother and father. It's a rite of passage. And that made sense to me. Now, you know, I start reading about Ibogaine, and it's not just all good. You know, you don't just trip your way into sobriety. It's cardiotoxic. It kills, with the overdoses, if you take too much, it kills brain cells. It can cause brain damage. It burns out the Purkinje cells. So it is not without risk by any means. You know, the woman I was speaking to, she told me I had to get an EKG done to have my heart checked out because it's rough on the heart. If you have a pre-existing heart condition, this stuff can likely kill you. You're also supposed to have a liver panel done to see how your liver is doing. Make sure your liver can process this stuff efficiently because it's harsh. And, you know, now that I did Ibogaine in 2008 and went on to provide it to around 100 other people in Mexico through 3 different clinics and was doing it in the States in hotel rooms. You know, I came to learn not everybody reacts the same way. Not everybody has the same results. Like all psychedelics, it's unpredictable at best. And most people, when they're coming to take Ibogaine to address an opiate addiction, you know, you're at the end of the line. You're in rough shape. You know, the healthiest person is going to have a hard time with a big dose of Ibogaine. But when you're weak and scrawny and strung out, it's no joke. So, long story short, I managed to make my way down to Mexico. You know, the woman told me, the Ibogaine doesn't work so well with the Suboxone because the Suboxone is a long-acting synthetic opiate. It works better with short-acting opiates such as heroin, morphine, oxy. She asked, do you have access to any short-acting opiates? I was like, well, nothing pharmaceutical, but I'm in Seattle. Black tar heroin is easier to get than cigarettes. And she said, well, get yourself that black tar heroin and do that for a good week leading up to coming down here. And, you know, for a second I was taken aback. It's like, This is a detox center, essentially a treatment telling me to stop taking Suboxone and do black tar heroin. However, I understood the science that the buprenorphine in the Ibogaine is super long acting. It's got long ass legs, and the Ibogaine struggles to detox it efficiently. So it works better with the short acting opiates. So I didn't have to get my arm twisted too hard to stop taking Suboxone and go get a ball of black tar heroin downtown with Froje and some syringes. And it didn't last me long enough. I remember I had to go re-up, and within that week, my arms were hammered. You know, I was tracked up within a week because I was so skinny. The thing with Suboxone is I get malnourished, I get skinny, I lose my appetite. Like right now, I don't have a lot of muscle on me. When I'm off Suboxone, I gain muscle, I gain weight. So I was in rough shape when I went down to Mexico to take Ibogaine. I was 27. I went down there on March 17th. I believe it was 2008. And I was 27. I turned 28 down there on March 23rd. So there was a lot of special symbolism to that experience. You know, it really was a rebirth for me. However, it almost killed me. You know, I woke up at 6 a.m. the morning that I had to go to Mexico, took my final shot of heroin, and you know, I remember waking up and I was dope sick and my bones were icy and cold and I had that acid in my gut, and there was the panic of needing heroin. And I remember the relief, the pure relief, knowing that I had everything I needed to get well, ready to go. I had my heroin, I had the syringes, I had the cooker, spoon, water, everything I need was there. And there was so much relief in that. And that also made me so bitter and angry that I found so much relief in that. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, famous last words, this is my last shot of heroin. It's the last time, right? I'm gonna kick tomorrow. But I was taking this chance, and so I flew down to San Diego, and I was picked up by a woman in a beat-up bronze Escalade who greeted me with a hug and a Xanax bar. And she picked me and a couple other clients up who had flown in. We make it across the border, and when you cross the border from San Diego into Mexico, it's jarring. You know, it's very apparent you're in a very different place. And it's a much more dangerous place. It's sketchy as hell down there, man. You know, back in the day, I tried to tell myself, it's just like anywhere else. It's not that bad. The place is insane. I've seen some insane things down there. Human life is cheap down there. You know, if you're making any type of revenue down there, you're gonna get extorted, you know. So I remember we got back to the house, and you know, this wasn't like a clinic. It was a house in a gated community, and they had, you know, some medical equipment around, or some oxygen tanks. There was a couple supposed nurses in scrubs. You know, they had some housekeepers, and it was a big, airy, sunny house up on a hill in Playa de Tijuana, overlooking shanty towns and the ocean. And that was the first time I'd ever been to Mexico or Tijuana. And so I think I hadn't had my blood drawn. I hadn't had the liver panel done. And so I was driven to a lab, a clinic, to have my blood drawn. But it was some type of holiday. It's always some type of holiday down there, and it was closed. And I remember she said, well, oh well. He was like, what do you mean, oh well? So there was a blood test I was supposed to get that didn't happen. Who knows? And so I come to later that night. It's dark. I'm in a room on a bed, you know, just it's on a box spring on the floor, and I'm sick. I am dope sick for the first time. I've been really dope sick in a few years, and I'm terrified. You know, I'm in a foreign place. I'm in Mexico, and I'm starting to panic thinking to myself, you know, I can still turn back. I don't have to do this, because I knew in my heart this experience was going to rock me. I knew this Ibogaine was going to be no joke. And I even told the woman beforehand that, you know what, I've done a lot of psychedelics. I've been to the outer realms. Do you think there's a possibility this is just going to fry me? You know, just send me out to where I don't return? And, you know, she said no, because of course she wanted my $5,000. That's really what matters to the vast majority of Ibogaine providers down in Mexico, is your money. First and foremost, they need your money. And that's that. You know, the overhead is cheap down there, and, you know, cracking people out 5-day-long Ibogaine treatments for thousands of dollars, highly profitable. You know, gram Ibogaine, maybe a few $100. Anyways, so they give me a test dose. They come in to give me my test dose. You know, generally with Ibogaine, you're given a test dose before a larger dose to see how you react. See if you're allergic, whatever. You know, I've never heard of a report of anyone having an allergic reaction from, you know, a small amount, you know, a legit allergic reaction. But what I found comforting is that even with the test dose, I found it was effective. They gave me a 00 capsule, which I know holds about 500 milligrams, and it was stuffed. So I don't know exactly what they gave me, but it was a stuffed 00 capsule of Ibogaine hydrochloride white crystalline powder, and within 45 minutes, I felt this warmth in my spine, and it emanated out through the rest of my body, and it removed the increasing pain and horror of my opiate withdrawal very efficiently, and I felt kind of good. I was a little bit warm, and there was comfort and grace, and thank you, God, that I found something that's helping. And so, you know, it's terrifying going into Ibogaine, you know, knowing very well that you might die. And I remember when I came to in that hotel room and remembered what I was doing, it's like, I might die here. So I closed my eyes laying in that bed, and I saw this giant pool of water in like a cave, a cavern, and there was drops of water falling into it very slowly, drop, drop, and it would send out waves in this glassy pool, and next thing I knew, I was diving into the water. Now, where the top of the water was glassy and calm and peaceful, beneath the water was chaos and current and caves, and I didn't have control. It was pulling me all over through all kinds of caves and caverns underwater, and I realized pretty soon that I wasn't having any issues breathing. I was underwater and I was breathing, and I felt good, and I opened my eyes, and I'm back in this room, this white nondescript room in Playas de Tijuana, in a house somewhere that, you know, I'm very aware that I could possibly die here. And someone comes in to give me my full flood dose, which I remember it was 3 00 caps. Now, I later asked my Ibogaine provider how much I was given, and it apparently wasn't kept on file. But this was in the Stone Ages when they were rocking people out with massive flood doses, 18 to 20 to 22 milligrams per kilogram, you know, cracking skulls. This was in the Stone Ages where it was known that if you want to get it done quick, get them that flood dose of Ibogaine, but there's a good chance the person's gonna die. I mean, there really is. You know, in the Ibogaine world, they'll talk about, oh, there's only 3% of people that take it that die. In my experience down there, I saw a lot more than that. And that's not counting the people that leave the clinic and go home and relapse and die because they don't have a tolerance anymore. So I was more comfortable taking the big dose, seeing that it was working. And after I took that big dose, boy, I felt tingling down to the bone, and I started to hear this buzzsaw through my ears, and I realized I couldn't move. I no longer had control of my body. Now, there was a very kind young man there who had gone through Ibogaine himself. He was from Utah, and he was a great benefit to me. You know, his presence helped keep me alive, I believe. And so it was nice having him there. And I just remember him trying to talk to me. You know, he asked me, "Are you okay, Ian?" He poked me, and I couldn't respond. And he said I heard him say he must be dreaming really good. And boy, dreaming really good was I don't know what you would call it, but I was projected out to the solar system, out to the planets. And I can hear this massive rumble, this roar of the movement of space. But it was paradoxical that within the chaos it was quiet and peaceful and slow. And I came very close to these planets. I was blasted straight out to space. I then traveled further away from the solar system, further out, and I saw a series of asteroids destroy our solar system, and it was reduced to smithereens, dust, just dust hanging in space, and it was peaceful. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I to do now? The solar system is gone. Not only my home and my life and the planet, but the entire solar system has been blasted to dust. And I found comfort in that. I had experienced the most horrific death I possibly could. And the planets began to form again. New planets formed and new stars, and millions upon millions of years elapsed, and I watched everything form again, and it was hot, and I watched it cool, and as it was cooling, it emanated rays of light, and I can feel that light and energy penetrate me. And as it moved through me, I could feel it moving poison from my body. I could feel it taking the heroin. And it wasn't just physically removing it, it was removing the spirit. It was removing the spirit of the poppy. And I believe the spirit of the poppy to be feminine. I believe the spirit of the poppy is mercy. It is meant to ease the pain of death and dying. The poppy is mercy. When you introduce the spirit of the poppy to a healthy individual, it emulates death. It is meant to help you die. That's what the poppy is. I felt the Ibogaine go to battle with the spirit of heroin. And when I proceeded to have a series of dreamlike visions where I lived multiple past lives. And in each of these past lives, whether I was a small boy or an old man, in the jungle, in the desert, at one point I was a street cook, and there was cobblestone roads, and it was New York City, Great Depression era. I was having a dispute with a neighboring cook. And all of these lives I experienced were my past lives. And before this, I was neither here nor there regarding reincarnation or past lives, but this experience I had with Ibogaine certainly suggested that I have lived many past lives, and each past life I have carried the same burden of pain that I have here, that in this lifetime it manifested in a heroin addiction. And I saw that I've been carrying this weight, this bag of rocks, for lifetimes. And I've identified with it. It's my pain. It's my suffering. You can't have it. So this is what Ibogaine did to me, you know? And that's just a snippet. I went home in awe. And Ibogaine tends to have a side effect that when you have that profound near-death experience, life-changing near-death experience, which I most definitely had a near-death experience, you want to help others have that. You know, even though I had this brutal experience where I almost died, it removed the heroin. And I was kind of a guinea pig. I had 2 close friends and their families waiting to see what happened to me. You know, if I'd come back alive, if it worked. And I got home and my friends went and did it. Ibogaine there was something going on here. You know, it was helping us discontinue heroin use. So when you discover something like this that isn't supposed to exist, you know, you get a little bit angry at first. It's like, you motherfuckers, this has been out here the whole time. Why have I been suffering like this? And I wanted to do everything in my means to help other people get this. I did everything I could to learn about Ibogaine, how to administer it to people safely, you know, how to care for people in emergencies if they're not making it during Ibogaine, because it happens, and it happens more often than people would like to say. So to be totally honest, you know, I can say this: I am not nearly the advocate of Ibogaine the way I once was. There is not currently anywhere in Mexico that I would comfortably send a loved one to. There's way more legitimate places in Canada to go to if you absolutely have to do Ibogaine. I'm really hoping there's promise with the analogs of Ibogaine, such as 18-MC, 18-methoxycoronaridine. You know, Ibogaine is one of 12 alkaloids from the Iboga shrub. Coronaridine is one of them. And so there's all these alkaloids within this plant, and there's all these analogs of Ibogaine that appear to be much safer. And it takes money to put these through human trials, and it's just not happening as fast as it needs to. I'm really hoping in the coming years we have these analogs of Ibogaine, and we take this Ibogaine out of the hands of shady actors in Mexico. You know, the vast majority of these clinics, you do not want to send your loved one there. You know, I nearly died. I'm pretty sure I had a stroke. I went aphasic for 3 days. I couldn't talk. I knew what I wanted to say. I could see the words. I could not talk. I had Broca's aphasia for days. And this was after I was given a booster. All right, so I was given my test dose, you know, 1 00 cap around 500 milligrams, and then 3 00s for my flood. Who knows? You know, 1,000 milligrams, who knows? And then, you know, a couple days later I was saying, you know, I'm still sick, you know, get so whiny with the dope withdrawal. Oh, I'm still sick, you know. And she tried telling me, well, you know, you're not thrashing around, you know, you don't look that sick. I was like, well, I don't feel good, you know. And, you know, I don't think it was withdrawal, actually. I think I was just hammered by the Ibogaine and weak and exhausted. So anyways, she gave me more. You know, it was another capsule, another 00. Around 400 milligrams was usually what a booster would be. That was too much. That was too much. It threw me over. I remember losing my ability to talk. And I remember walking around thinking to myself, I am poisoned. Now, my wife knows sign language. And I remember I came to a point where I accepted that I had lost my ability to speak. I said if that's what I had to pay in exchange for the heroin addiction to be taken, so be it. I'll learn sign language. That is how deep the Ibogaine went into my soul. It went into my spirit and took the spirit of the poppy. Now, I mean, who knows what it actually did, but I came out of it, and ever since then, you know, sometimes I have a hard time finding my words. I still have a little touch of that Broca's aphasia sometimes. I know what I want to say, I can't find the word, and it's not just because I'm getting older or smoking weed. Ever since I did the Ibogaine, you know, I think I got a touch of that brain damage from it, and I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure I had a stroke. You know, I couldn't make it to the bathroom. I was peeing myself, I was pooping myself, and I remember looking into the eyes of the people at this clinic, and I could see that they didn't know what to do. I could see that these people thought I was fried. And, you know, I came back and I went on to stay opioid free for nearly 2 years. It was when I moved down to Mexico and started working in the Ibogaine clinics and put myself in that chaotic environment of dealing with active addicts, overextending myself, putting myself in dangerous situations, having access to opiates, being around it all the time. And then I come to learn all these Ibogaine providers, they are chipping on opiates. They are taking little dope vacations, and then you take a little booster of Ibogaine and you're all good. You know, telling themselves bullshit like, well, if I do dope from time to time, it helps me better relate to my heroin addicted clients. You know, reasoning like that is what happens in the Ibogaine world. And, you know, I've seen a lot of amazing souls crash and burn in the Ibogaine world, and I don't know what to think of it anymore. I really don't. I really don't. All I know is I'm never taking it again. You know, I think it would kill me. I've done multiple, like 400 to 500 milligram boosters. One time I did near a flood. I did a second flood dose. I did like 1,000 milligrams at Sandy's house. Rest in peace, Sandy. And, you know, I did not have that profound visionary experience I had the first time around. I remember I just kind of blacked out. And, you know, I managed to stay clean for like 2 months after that one. I got to a place where I felt like I was disrespecting Ibogaine. I'm continuing to take this and I'm continuing to relapse. What is wrong here? You know, what was wrong is that I put myself in the wrong environment. If I would have just continued living my life and not felt obligated to help other people who were struggling with addiction get their Ibogaine treatments, I probably would have never relapsed, to be totally honest. But I felt I owed society. I felt guilty, you know, for all the drugs I distributed and, you know, people that I introduced drugs to who got strung out. I've carried an immense amount of, I've carried around a lot of guilt regarding, you know, my drug use and giving drugs to other people, and so I felt it was my obligation to help other people take Ibogaine. So we'll stop here and we'll keep going. Much love, everybody. Again, any questions or you just want to talk, hit me up. Peace, everybody. Wow.